Hello, everyone. Welcome back to an Unearthly podcast, and we are here today to discuss Destiny of the Doctor, Shadow of Death. We have myself, the Man in Black, as well as Mad Matt Winchell,
Hello.
and we are ready to go.
Alrighty. Oop, I gotta go through everything here. And
Okay, maybe we're not that ready to go.
oh, come on! I'm ready enough. Alrighty.
Alright, so as you might have seen, it's just going to be myself and Matt this time. There's a possibility that Eli will be returning, but we're not exactly sure when he'll be arriving. So for now, we're going to forge ahead with just the two of us.
Yep. And of course, Randy is talking about appearing sometime by the end of next month.
Yeah, that would be nice. We'll see how that goes, though.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna make any promises because there are a lot of factors, but hopefully that'll be the case. Is there any news this week? Did we know the name of Day of the Doctor last time we talked?
The name of Day of the Doctor? I believe we did. Yes.
Okay. For anybody who missed it, the 50th anniversary special is officially titled Day of the Doctor. The only piece of news that I'm familiar with is that apparently the Series 7 DVD box set has a few minisodes in them. I haven't watched them yet, so I could not tell you yet whether they're any good or not, but by next week I'll have seen them, or at least the one that I have a link for.
Okay.
Anything new?
Fancy art.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely like that poster. Somebody did a breakdown analysis of the poster, which I think might be reading a little bit too much into it because simply having Gallifreyan symbols might have just been the artist saying, hey, it's Doctor Who and it looks cool, not, oh, by the way, these are in here for an important reason or anything like that.
Yeah, since we don't have any official translations for it or anything either.
Right. It's possible, but just because something appears in the photo and is related to Doctor Who does not, to me, mean that it's actually going to appear in the special.
Yeah, it does not mean anything about the Gallifreyans coming back, although that would be neat, especially if we could actually further their story a bit more, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Just like the appearance of Bad Wolf, and I believe one of the zoomed-in images showed a damaged TARDIS, that could just mean that Rose and Matt Smith are returning, not that we're actually getting specific plot lines dealing with those things.
Well, it looks like it may be a damaged TARDIS, but it also looks like a bunch of dogs exploding too, so...
Right, the damaged... Well, the TARDIS is... Yeah, the TARDIS up by John Hurt's shoulder.
Yep. And how many times has the TARDIS been damaged lately? I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
There's been enough times lately.
Apparently, I just found out myself that apparently in the Big Finish audios, there's a time where the TARDIS essentially gets damaged to the point where it loses the blue, becomes white, grows a black TARDIS inside it, which the Doctor goes to flit off on adventures on his own with, until eventually fusing them in order to heal it. And that's apparently with the 7th Doctor, so... I don't know any more about that. This is something I just heard about. But
it sounds like something zany the 7th Doctor would do.
Yeah.
The man who found out that he was Merlin.
Right. I believe the novels actually had Paul McGann be Merlin, I think. Along with the Meddling Monk and I think another Time Lord as well. Now, before we go into the recap and the review proper, I'd like to present an idea. Now, this might be something that's changed once the time machine comes out, but as of right now, I'm kind of wondering if the appearances of the 11th Doctor in all of these stories are related to the ending of Name of the Doctor.
Maybe.
Because he essentially walked into his own timeline and essentially became God of himself.
Yeah, technically speaking.
In that scene. So I could certainly see him going back and giving himself cheat sheets and the like.
Little warnings and hints here and there where they needed.
Yeah. Let's see. Are we going to do a recap of this? I guess we should.
Probably should, yes. So who shall do it this time?
I think Eli was going to do it.
Well, he's still no-show, so... Shall I?
Sure.
I'll try to summarize. I shall try to be brief. So, obviously, this is the second chapter of Destiny of the Doctor, we are following the second Doctor. This one is hosted by Fraser Hines, who is best known as Mr. McCrummon, Jamie. And actually, he does a fantastic job, but we'll get into that in a bit. The story apparently picks up shortly after they had also gotten Zoe in their group and making the trio that would be the second Doctor group until the end of his run on the show. They were traveling through time and space when something happened to literally hit the TARDIS and then came back and hit it again, forcing them to make essentially a crash landing. They managed to land apparently inside of a small station. They weren't exactly sure where they were, but upon finding visual references for outside, they found out that they were on, what was it now? I don't think it was a Nova Star. I forget what type of star it was.
I know what you're referring to, but I can't quite place the word.
Yeah, that's just it. I'm trying to place what the word was now.
Not a nebula, right?
I don't think it was a nebula. Maybe it was. Either way, it's essentially a pre-exploding star, and the force of such a thing forced the TARDIS back out of the time vortex and forced them to land. Of course, it was hit. The TARDIS was hit twice, as they noted, because the thing is constantly spinning around with all that energy. Upon landing, they noticed that it's very much a mostly windowless place, but they eventually do find as previously mentioned, essentially a ceiling-to-floor window looking outside, where they're able to at least see some of the things going on out there, including the sun having exploded. And obviously, this is not Earth. This is some very, very far exploration away from Earth. And the reason why this particular station is on this planet is because the humans have realized that this should not be here, this should not actually exist. How is this existing? And made a small, quick base to explore and have a look around.
I found a pulsar is the term we were looking for.
Pulsar, okay. Because being that close to a pulsar star, nothing should still be there. It shall all be burning away or being destroyed either way because of all the immense power and energy being thrown out there. So the humans have come down to try and investigate what's going on. And I should really make sure Skype is on Do Not Disturb. There. While they're trying to figure out all this, one of the few crew members that are still around inside of the base actually comes up on the trio and holds them at gunpoint. Apparently the gun is made especially to actually harm living beings while not actually damaging stuff around them, because one wrong shot and you're blasting out the window. And who knows how the atmosphere is outside, because this is an alien planet. Upon further investigations and looking at the events going on outside, they figure out that what's going on inside of the base is actually a totally different speed of time than what's going on outside. And that outside is moving much slower than what's going on within inside the base. Because I believe the way they put it was that a couple of minutes inside is essentially a second or two outside. Because they were literally catching people in very slow motion, taking pictures and everything outside as a couple of crew members were out there.
Yeah, they mentioned it's a very radical difference, which is sort of quite how much of a difference is sort of elaborated on in the end, but I don't want to spoil that just yet.
Yeah, we'll get into that momentarily. But as they are trying to figure out what's going on and why these guys suddenly showed up, apparently the crew on the inside are trying to figure out why there's these strange earthquakes and tremors and so forth, and they're trying to find a way to stop it. To which they think that, as usual, the Doctor and his crew might be someone responsible for this, and start to take them in for imprisonment and questioning. But in which case, the tremors happen yet again, forcing everyone to run, but also splitting off the groups in half. Jamie and two of the station guys trapped in a hallway, while the others were trapped in a room trying to get the door open so they could get Jamie and the others back out of there.
One thing that's interesting here is that they never actually asked the Doctor where he came from or why he's there. He was just there.
Well, he does call out to TARDIS, and I think once or twice throughout calling out to TARDIS, his name explains very quickly, "Oh, that's my ship, by the way."
He does at one point later on, yes.
Yeah. So it turns out, I think, that there might have been some time differential between being in the room and being trapped in that hallway after a point, too, I believe. That's where they really start to figure out all the time differentials going on, was while they're trapped in that room, because that room was a command center of some sort, I believe, for the small base that they had there.
Right.
Finally, the Doctor and Zoe do finally get the door unlocked and get Jamie and one of the two guys back in. However, while they're trying to get the door open, the hallway was breached from the outside, and a shadowy giant hand essentially grabbed one of the guys, who then quickly turned silver, then into a skeleton, and then just disappeared into dust. It was gone. So in a couple of seconds...
McCoy during the opening sequence to the Seventh Doctor show.
So in a couple of seconds, this extra character was literally killed by aging to death. Because whatever this shadowy thing is trying to equalize time while snatching up people, and or at least that's what they are quickly trying to figure on this strange shadowy creature. So they're trying to now find a way to get outside so they can warn the rest of the crew and try and get out of there.
Killed by wibbly wobbly timey-wimey.
Never has wibbly wobbly been so dangerous. They do manage to get everyone out to the escape hatch except for the Doctor himself, who decides to stay back to try and lure the creature away and maybe confuse it, and it won't chase them anymore, figuring that they had already escaped. The Doctor, while doing this, quickly runs down the hallway, leaving the shadowy creature that had just broken in behind on its own. And as the Doctor is coming closer towards getting to the TARDIS so that he could save everyone with it, he then suddenly sees a sheet of paper where there had been nothing before. As he continues to watch it for a few moments, a message actually starts to appear, and he figures that it has to be psychic paper of some sort. Upon trying to touch the paper, which he cannot actually physically touch, he does get a quick psychic link with the Matt Smith Doctor, seeing an image of him with the bow tie and so forth. And there's only one other Doctor with a bow tie. I don't think there was any mention of a fez or a mop, though. Well, it would have been nice to mention a fez, but eh. That might have been a little bit of overkill, though, too.
Yes.
All we need is the bow tie, and that's all we really need, because, again, there's only one other doctor with a bow tie. Upon reading all the messages that came up, he is warned that the shadow figure is, quote, behind him, and that he needs to make sure that the information from that the people have been studying is saved and kept safe, is rescued and kept safe, so he actually has to go back towards the shadow creature in order to try and find it and get a copy of all the data, otherwise it would go missing, and the civilization that the people are here trying to study would go unknown. Because if they had left and the thing was abandoned, they would probably send nobody else back to try and figure out what was going on there. The doctor, while trying to get this information, finally does see the shadow thing as it pops up, and it seems to be just sitting there watching him, and it's in a much smaller form now, just kind of a small pool of black on the ground. He steps towards it, and it actually quickly backs away. He takes another step, and this time it doesn't move at all. It starts to then inch towards him as he backs off, and then something nabs him. Unlike the regular humans that had nabbed before, the doctor does not instantly die. The doctor then sees a vision of these strange, almost light-based creatures who then threaten to kill everybody. Right after this, we go back outside with everyone else as they are running from the base, and then see the shadowy form coming after them once again. As the people are fleeing, Jamie kind of figures that since he's the slowest and most unable to escape, that he would try to lure the shadow creature away from everyone. Upon doing so, he crash lands into another figure in a spacesuit, which happens to be the second doctor. The second doctor tells Jamie that it's okay and brings everyone back, and explains that the shadowy form was the missing people that they had been looking for all this time. He has spent apparently 2 years talking with these people, trying to get to understand what the problem is, and also making them help put back together everything they destroyed inside the base. He has set up good relations between them and has helped the creatures make the machines that the humans are using much quieter so that they won't be bothering the race of people that they are now in contact with. Apparently, there is a 2-month lag between asking a question to these people and getting a response back, but they have promised, as long as the humans keep the noise down, which actually hurts them, that they will respond back in time. And will continue to do further research into this race of beings who have become pure light, essentially. With that, and with all this new information gathered, the second Doctor and crew slip back to the TARDIS, essentially knowing that their job here is done for now. And I think that pretty much covers everything on this one. For all the basic coverage of the need-to-know plot.
Yep, and the part I didn't want to spoil it earlier was essentially by the time the Doctor has completed his negotiations, we realized that the time difference is essentially 1 year inside to a minute outside, give or take 50% of that in either direction. But during the several minutes that Jamie and the others are running away, the Doctor conducts several years of negotiations.
Mm-hmm. And also repairs and computer work to make things run smoother and quieter.
Right, that as well, yes. One thing that I realized that we did not mention, or that we did not go over, I know last week we did a brief overview of William Hartnell's Doctor. Here, should probably give a bit of a background about the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton's Doctor, which was essentially the first time that the idea of there being multiple actors to play the Doctor was brought up.
Sure enough. So, from the beginning then? Shall we cover the second Doctor from the very beginning? Yeah. Okay, so essentially you have Hartnell, the first Doctor, And he's obviously getting on his years, and his memory is failing him so bad that they literally have to make sticky notes all over the set.
This was referring to the actor, not the character.
Yes. They literally had to make sticky notes for Hartnell all over the set in order for him to help remember his lines in case he mentally botched somewhere.
Yeah, this wasn't also due to his age. This was also due to a degenerative disease that he had. I forget the name of it, but it eventually progressed.
It was not unlike Alzheimer's.
Kind of, yeah. By the time of the 10th anniversary, it was actually so bad that even that would not work, which was why they literally had to sit him in a booth reading cue cards for his entire appearance in the 10th anniversary special.
Apparently, when he said yes to being in the special, and when they actually had him on camera for recording the special, he was apparently both times in very good condition, because his condition could change from day to day, apparently.
Right. Just like any condition. Just like, for example, Alzheimer's, like Matt mentioned, is very similar. Some days you'll remember things fairly well, and some days you don't even remember who you are.
So yes, they really lucked out with him on that. But going back to the show, they wanted to keep this going. This was becoming a very popular show. Hartnell, after the second season, had just really... They found the niche to keep Doctor Who going, which was focusing on the Doctor. And they wanted to keep this going. And one of the things they had never said blatantly outright was, what is the Doctor? Is he really an alien? And how alien is he? To which they finally decide at the end of Hartnell's last episode, which was the 10th Planet, the first Cyberman story, that, well, Hartnell is finally decided on his own that it's time for him to go. So what we want to do is, how about we bring back somebody else to play the Doctor, and instead of some weird random bullshit reason as to why the Doctor's appearance has changed, how about we come up with an excuse for him to actually physically change, and wrote it into the script. To which they finally had for the first time the, God damn it, my brain.
It was, in this case, it was actually different from what would be used later. They basically said that the TARDIS rejuvenated him and made him younger, which would eventually become part of the regeneration mechanic.
Yeah, so this was the first time that they decided, well, let's regenerate him and make him into a slightly different person. It not only would affect him physically, but it would also affect him inside his head. He'd be a slightly different person altogether.
Was the regeneration of the Fourth Doctor the only one that happened completely independent of the TARDIS or Gallifrey? And actually, that one almost failed, so that's a perfect example. They had to bring him into the TARDIS and such in order to help him through it.
The Fourth Doctor? The regeneration to the Fourth Doctor?
No, from the Fourth to the Fifth.
The third one actually died outside the TARDIS.
Did he? Okay,
Yes, the third one into the fourth one died outside the TARDIS, so he was perfectly fine. He was a little loopy, but he was otherwise fine by the time he was done.
He was a little loopy for 7 years.
Well, the grinning madness of Tom Baker cannot be denied, yes. But the regeneration to Tom Baker, that happened outside the TARDIS. The fourth into fifth, that happened outside the TARDIS. Trying to remember, 5th to 6th, that happened inside the TARDIS. 6th to 7th, that happened inside.
Definitely in the TARDIS, as were 6th to 7th.
We've never seen, the 7th to 8th happened outside the TARDIS.
Yep, and that one almost failed.
Oh, that was also because of other...
Oh yeah, it was also because of the drugs, yeah.
8th to 9th we did not see. Let's think, 9th to 10th, that was actually inside TARDIS, and he was out of it for majority of the first episode.
True. And of course, 10th to 11th was inside the TARDIS as well.
Yep. And that one came out a little bit better, although the TARDIS was crashing.
Yeah, the TARDIS regenerated as well. I think that's the first time we've straight up had something like that happen.
Well, then again, the TARDIS was kind of exploding as it happened, though, too, which is also the first.
I just mean it's the first time we've really seen the TARDIS completely have to go through its own regeneration rather than just changing a bit off screen.
Did they actually call it a regeneration?
They did not. He said the TARDIS is rebuilding itself.
So yeah, I would think that it's just TARDIS automatically rebuilding itself, which would technically not be regeneration because the TARDIS has many console rooms.
And that it changed both the inside and the outside because not only did it change the configuration,
oh, that's right. Yeah, they did add some extra stuff on the outside.
Outside, even though that's controlled by the chameleon circuit, which you'd think would just be like, okay, this is what a TARDIS, or this is what a police box looks like, but
well, apparently the chameleon circuit got knocked about a bit and went, well, let's add this while we're at it.
I guess over time the Doctor has just gone around taking photos of different police boxes for the TARDIS' sake.
Which one do you want to go with this week, TARDIS? You want to go with that one? Let's go with that one.
That was part of the plot of Legopolis, was making sure that they got a good enough imitation of a police box.
Yep. So it's not the first time. The TARDIS, she's picky, So she picked a slightly new outside image for herself.
So anyway, Patrick Troughton, he, in order to make the role his own, sort of adopted some different mannerisms. He was not necessarily a physical doctor in the way of someone like John Pertwee, but he definitely moved around more, was a lot more mobile, a lot more energetic and enthusiastic about certain things. Altogether, a much livelier doctor than the one that Hartnell portrayed.
But at the same time, in order to tie them in, obviously they have to remember some enemies, like the Cybermen were obviously an enemy that the second Doctor
which the second Doctor was introduced by having the Daleks recognize him.
Oh yes, and the Daleks did recognize him, and he remembered them too. So yeah, the Daleks also became a regular thing, although still not as much as what the second Doctor got with Cybermen, because those two were a thing back in the late 60s there.
Yep. For the first 4 seasons, the Daleks generally appeared in 6 to 12 episodes a season, at which point they were like, okay, let's do something a little different, and that's when they started using the Cybermen for the next 2 years, at which point they, again, instead of using moderation, got rid of the Cybermen and almost rid of the Daleks in order to bring in another guy that they used for every episode for over a season. Moderation, thy name is not BBC.
Yeah, that's kind of the BBC. Kind of has weird herk-a-jerk reactions to things, and goes a little too extreme once in a while, depending on what it is and what they feel needs to be changed, But yeah, so yeah, the second Doctor, very much as intelligent and as clever as the first, but definitely a different personality. And yeah, he had a much more running time. He had better memory for his lines. He could do a lot more running about than the first Doctor could, which means that they could do a lot more newer and more advanced scenes, I guess you would say.
Although it's notable that the role itself combined with the shooting schedule pretty much wore Patrick Troughton completely out to the point where he had to give up the role.
Yes, but that was over multiple years though too.
Right, yes, that was after basically 3 years, just under.
Yeah, and to be honest, the way they filmed things back then, yeah, that would tire anybody out. And they were becoming a little bit better though with how to put it. They were becoming better with how to schedule things, but it was not in time to keep Patrick Troughton on.
Right, because the first 6 seasons were long seasons. They were, I mean, there definitely had a lot of episodes per season, whereas now you're lucky if you have 10 episodes in a season of a BBC show. At that time, they had, I haven't counted, but 50 would not surprise me. don't think it was quite that much, but
I would argue maybe somewhere between 25 and 30 episodes a season, but even then, that's pushing it.
Here's an indication. As I mentioned earlier, the Daleks appeared in 12 episodes a season in seasons 2, 3, and 4, and they did not at all monopolize the Doctor's time.
Yeah, true.
They were in less than half of the season while being in 12 episodes a season. So there were at least 25 episodes, if not more.
Excuse me. But yes, they quite interesting that they were such a popular monster that was on so frequently, yet there was so much extra time spent on totally different things.
Right.
Whereas nowadays, yeah, you get much fewer episodes, so it does feel like they're trying too hard to squeeze more Daleks out. Because there's a lot less airtime now, too.
Yeah, imagine if we got 6 episodes, if we got 6 hours, a 6-hour Dalek special in the middle of the season, plus a Dalek episode without Doctor Who appearing before it now, like we did in season 3.
Well, actually, imagine having an entire season without Daleks. I think some people would freak their shit. Even though the Daleks right now are kind of in a point of, how about you just give them a break and really think hard about what we're going to do next with them?
I don't know. I mean, as a Russell T Davies fan, I kind of see it as the Daleks having been on a break since 2009. They haven't been appearing nearly as much, and they haven't had a two-parter really since then.
Yet every single appearance they've made since then could have really benefited from a two-parter to actually flesh out things. Instead, they feel like very large episodes. And because of that, the Daleks have kind of been going downhill since.
But what they really need to do is reserve judgment on that till Day of the Doctor, I think. So I think we can really reserve judgment on that till Day of the Doctor, though, and see what comes of them there.
Yeah, because apparently there must be Daleks in there, because they're using images of them.
Yeah, Daleks will be there. The Daleks seem to be the main enemy. Cybermen will be there, but they're not being promoted as much as the Daleks are. Mm-hmm. Zygons, same as the Cybermen. We know they will be there, but we're not really seeing them being heavily promoted.
Although people have been demanding the Zygons to be back for how long?
It's possible that they changed their minds about Zygons and Cybermen just because we haven't seen anything about them ever since the first announcement.
Yeah, so that could also easily be them going, shh, keep it a secret. Because, as been mentioned multiple times on this show, Moffat's been known to be a critical liar. Yeah, they'll just play a small role. Nothing important, just a small role. Just a little small role. Yeah, yep, nothing important. It's gonna be huge! I mean, even Russell T Davies would lie, but only to an extent. I think the biggest lie Russell T Davies ever said was absolutely no Davros ever. And Davros appeared.
Christopher Eccleston will be here for the long run. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, essentially the head guys behind Doctor Who for the last, since its rebirth, have been critical liars in order to try and keep at least a few secrets here and there. Which actually I don't mind some lies, but then there's a certain point where you have to start saying some truthful things, otherwise you're just gonna piss everyone off and they're gonna walk away. Then again, I would assume they would prefer to not have to go to interviews all the time and give away all their secrets either, I suppose.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm too busy trying to film! Leave me alone! But, yeah, so second Doctor, far more hectic, far more energetic, if you will, even for his already slightly older age at the time. He was definitely younger than the previous Doctor by at least a couple of years, and
I thought he was 3 years older than Hartnell.
Really? I thought he was younger.
Let me look that up.
He definitely seemed younger.
Well, that's what they did play up Hartnell's age. They did the white hair was a wig.
True.
And they definitely made him play. He played like the man he played was essentially 80-something. He was 55. Okay, I got it backwards. So that was my mistake. I thought it was each even number actor was old, or each second act. There's essentially a 3-actor cycle that's been recognized up to a certain point. I thought it was young, old, middle is actually in between, so it's old, young, middle. Hartnell was 55, Troutman was 46, and Pertwee was in the middle. So I kind of mixed that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Patrick Troughton was much younger than Hartnell.
Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, 9 years younger by starting ages. I didn't realize it was anywhere near that much of a difference.
Yeah, and
which would have actually made him somewhere
apart.
Would have actually put him about somewhere around 12 years younger than 12 years or 12 years almost exactly younger than Hartnell.
So yeah, he was definitely a step towards a younger lead there, and I think the show kind of benefited from that because again, you have a main character now who's a little more lively and can do a lot more, not exactly action bits like the Third Doctor was going to do, but definitely a lot more movement and a lot quicker pace of things.
And I just sent you the chart that I'm looking at for the sake of the stream. Now the only question about this cycle is that puts actually the first time the cycle has been completely broken is that Peter Capaldi is certainly not between the ages of David Tennant and Matt Smith.
Yep, definitely not.
Not even remotely.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Peter Capaldi, did we bring it up on the show that he was in Spaceballs?
I don't think we did.
Yeah, so in the movie Spaceballs, Capaldi is in that as the guy who gets the chest burster at the bar.
Shouldn't be because that should be John Hurt because he unless there were two.
John Hurt? What?
Because John Hurt was specifically supposed to appear in Spaceballs to reenact his scene from Alien.
Or am I getting the wrong guy? Because I could have sworn that was the guy who's going to be the new Doctor.
Somebody you might have seen it as an article saying new Doctor, and they were referring to John Hurt and not Capaldi. But yeah, I'm saying John Hurt definitely appears there. Let me look up Spaceballs and see if I find Capaldi in there.
So wait, what? Where? What? I'm completely lost now.
But it was definitely John Hurt had the chest burster in Alien. He then reappeared in Spaceballs to also have a chest burster. And when I just did a quick Google search, I'm seeing that the person you described was John Hurt.
So, wait, so I got the animated Doctor mixed up with the upcoming Doctor, or?
What do you mean animated? They're both new actors to play the Doctor, so that might have been where your confusion lies.
Okay. Wow, yeah. Okay. Jesus. I could have sworn. Well, anyways, apparently all my facts are fucked up again. God. Well, so much for that.
Oh well.
I could have sworn I had something right, and then it's shot in the foot. Okay, never mind.
I know I've made mistakes worse than that on this show.
No, it's been like this for like the last couple hours now. It's kind of annoying at times. It's like, all my facts are shot in the foot. Fuck it.
Yeah, we didn't really mention his companions at all. The second Doctor generally he originally traveled with Ben and Polly, who were Hartnell's closing companions. He had them for less than a year, at which point he picked up Jamie, played by Fraser Hines, and he pretty much became the mascot of the second Doctor, and was pretty much the prototypical Doctor's best friend character who travels with him for several years. He also traveled, the two of them also traveled with Victoria, a young Victorian girl, and I'm not sure if the pun was intentional there or not. And then later on with Zoe, who appears in Shadow of Death and is essentially from the future and is apparently a genius in addition to that.
And yes, this would be Zoe down here that we're looking at. Then
She is best known for a scene from The Mind Robber in which she lies down across the console and the cameraman is nice enough to go behind her.
Yeah, that shot gets used so dang often. You know, the old days. I'm actually going to zoom on this picture because this is actually quite a nice Second Doctor picture. Yeah, he had a hell of a lot of robotic enemies, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Even some of them that aren't robotic still have like massive amounts of like armor or mechanical parts to them.
Like the Daleks?
Like the Daleks and the Martians.
The Ice Warriors with their armor.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was meant to actually be armor until recently, so yeah. Yeah, certain recent episodes like, oh, okay, that explains it a bit,
Yeah, because they even had essentially robotic claws in their first appearances, didn't they?
Yeah, they had these giant clipping claws, yeah. You can see up in there in the corner. And he had the Yeti, which were essentially robotic servants. And all this other crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, and not a major point during this era, but the Second Doctor was the first one to meet the Brigadier, although he was not a Brigadier when we first met him.
Well, he was, I believe, a Brigadier by the second time we met him.
Yes, I believe by the invasion he was.
Yes. So he'd actually gone up in the world, and it's all helped him.
I think he was a colonel in which episode was that?
Web of Fear, I believe it was called.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a serial with the Yeti.
Oh, okay. So with the Great Intelligence.
Yep. With the Great Intelligence, which is now a major thing in the current series.
I could have done so much with that in Series 7. Oh well.
Yeah, they could have done a lot more of it, I think, but it's become a thing still.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else you'd like to talk about before we go into Shadow of Death?
Actually, one of my favorite things is I like occasionally to see some of the Doctor Who parodies. One of the few times I like to see silly stuff about Doctor Who. And I believe one of them, when David Tennant first got on, was they have this show in Britain called Dead Ringers, and they actually do have a slew of actors who do very good versions of the different versions of the Doctor. And they actually had, I believe, a fourth, a second, a seventh, a ninth and 10th, and maybe one or two other Doctors, all in one little Christmas special for Dead Ringers.
Okay.
And I believe during one of the scenes, one of the first early scenes, David Tennant actually walks out with a turkey wrapped in tinfoil, to which you get the second Doctor yelling, "Oh my goody aunt!" and starts to look like he's about to panic. And then I believe it was the fourth Doctor that yelled at Tennant's Doctor for, in short, "You know better than that, man! All of his enemies were made out of tinfoil!" And then a few minutes later, you see the seventh Doctor chasing the second down the hallway, going, "Woo!" waving the tinfoil. Because, yeah, they were experimenting back then, and tinfoil was kind of new.
and it was cheap.
Yep, it was cheap and easy to get a hold of, and I do recall that they did have some floating tinfoil for a monster at one point. So yeah, that was a legitimate threat to the second Doctor, that thing. Oh my.
And that's, speaking of dead ringers, that kind of segs nicely into discussing Fraser Hines here, because
Oh my
he was
god,
a
yeah.
very good Patrick Troughton. Of course,
He was amazingly close on being Patrick Troughton in this.
Of course, he's closer to Hartnell's age at this point than to Jamie's, so that might help.
A little bit, yeah. I'm thinking that the age of him has kind of helped with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'd still say, I know you were arguing against it earlier, but I'd say he still does a pretty good Jamie, too.
He does, and I mean, I would say that he did a better Doctor than Jamie, but I would also say that part of that is because Jamie doesn't really have anything to do here. He's essentially the Samwise Gamgee of the episode. He
pretty much. He doesn't quite get it all, but he's kind of there
to be like, I don't get it, but I'll be brave about it.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, for the most part. And that's actually what he did in the most part to begin with throughout most of his run on the show. But I think he got a few more things more often than he did here. But then again, this is still kind of early on, though, too, for Jamie.
I believe whenever there was an action sequence, that's when Jamie was called on.
Oh, yeah, whenever there was actually a real action sequence, Jamie was in there full blast. And they didn't really have that for him in here. But
which
still
kind of makes sense. I mean, it's hard enough to do that in an audio format, and there's really nobody here to have a sword fight against.
Unless you brought in like a third or fourth person, so yeah, it required a lot more voice work than what we had for these particular stories.
I imagine if this was actually made in the 60s, there might have been like one of the aliens might have dressed up in some kind of suit that allowed them to interact with people, and they could have had a sword fight. And then Ultraman could arrive and chase them away.
Yeah. But yeah, my God, did he nail trying to play Patrick Troughton in this one?
He did. Like, if they went forward and had him play the second Doctor without, not even as narrator, simply as the second Doctor, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, it would require a bit of makeup and maybe some prosthetics, but they could probably get him to look pretty damn close.
I meant for future Big Finish work.
Oh, for Big Finish work? Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what Fraser Hines looks like nowadays, but as a voice actor, he could certainly do it any time.
Fraser... Yeah, and I'm probably butchering this. So actually, let's hit back, and I can actually look at the picture up close. So, I'm looking for... Okay,
one of these days, Google is either going to pay us or sue us. Image search so much in these streams.
Google doesn't care because they're also a part of YouTube. They're a free thing. And he's not that bad, actually. He's not that horribly aged. No,
but there's also the fact that Patrick Troughton has a very specific look to him, and
yeah, he doesn't quite completely mesh with that either.
Like, it would be hard enough to cast his son to play him, never mind somebody else.
Yeah. And even his son, who does look quite a bit like him, won't completely mesh.
He looks like him if he was a foot taller or 2 feet taller or something to that nature.
But yeah, he doesn't quite completely hit that either, so it's kind of odd. Yeah, Patrick Troughton was very much his own thing, and you can't quite find a duplicate for him. But voice-wise, oh my God,
John Nathan Turner certainly tried to turn Sylvester McCoy into one.
Yeah, that outfit from behind, by the way.
Yeah. Which I've seen people have recolored that. Not the episode, not much, just the one specific shot people have recolored.
Yeah, a couple of different people have recolored. Wait. This place looks familiar to me. Maybe, no, maybe not. But it looks a lot like the walls at the hotel that we have our convention at.
Ah.
And I know there's been more than one person who's actually played the second Doctor at our convention, to be honest. Which is kind of actually amusing. And I think one of our staff has done the second Doctor. One of our staff has also done the fifth Doctor. I think we had a couple of people do... Well, we've had numerous people do 9 and 10. I think I've seen a couple of 11s now.
I'm sure.
Although I think they started disappearing again this year. Gee, I wonder why. I really do hope that Matt Smith can come back and do something better one of these days.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've actually made it this far without discussing what we thought of Shadow of Death.
I don't know, but I don't know about you, but I quite like this episode. Yeah, again, just like the previous one, I think they really hammered this one, and it helps that Frasier here sounds almost dead on for Patrick Troughton now. Maybe it's because of the age. Maybe it's because he actually knew the guy for how many years.
Right. I do wish it had been, and every time they returned, almost every time they returned together, so.
Yeah. So that both of them have known each other for quite some bleeding time.
Right.
Since the 60s, so yeah.
This is another one, I mean, I would say I probably felt the time in this a bit more than the other, which to the point where I'm not sure what they could have done that would have made it longer, but at times it did feel a little rushed, particularly toward the end.
I will say that it did feel a little bit shorter. Actually, for me. It did feel a bit shorter on this one. For some reason. Yeah, I think the major thing is that we didn't get so much stuff with the companions, and we got a lot of stuff with the Doctor, which this is called Destiny of the Doctor, so I guess that's kind of apt, but it was a very noticeable difference between the two.
Yeah, for example, I mean, Zoe had a few moments, but really, like, if you switched Jamie and Zoe out with almost any other companion, I mean, actually, the Doctor could have showed up on his own, and this episode would not have been very different. I think some of the comic relief that Jamie provided would have been gone. That would have been about it.
Yeah, that probably would have been about it. He'd still have done an excellent second Doctor.
Yeah. So like, if we had gotten maybe just a scene with Jamie, Zoe, and the aliens trying to escape or whatever, it would have been interesting.
Yeah, if they both had a longer scene for that and actually brought the aliens out in person instead of just this shadowy form all the time.
And I gotta say, you can tell that this has the scientific accuracy of regular Doctor Who, because if you really look at it, for them to have warped time in that thing specifically, that would either mean that A, they had some way to bring gravity to ridiculous extremes within the confines of that establishment, or that they had Time Lord technology.
Yeah, which goofy pseudoscience, yay.
Yeah, it's like really the only way to slow down time like that or to speed it up is either a massive gravity well, which probably would have killed everyone except the Doctor and the aliens, or traveling at a massive velocity, like extreme relativistic speeds. And
their only excuse is, oh, the sun is gone.
And Zoe is able to flip switches and change the time, not within the entire confines, but within specific rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to wonder do they have gravity well generators beneath every room or what?
Well, and even the scientist who was on there was saying, you can't do that. And so he's just like, watch me.
The doctor's like, well, you must be able to do it because she did it.
Yeah, not like it really helped that much.
Well, it slowed the aliens down enough for everyone except for the doctor to get outside.
Which still didn't make that much sense, but then again, they wanted to try and get a hold of TARDIS to make a more safe escape, though, too, I assume.
Right.
Hmm. But yeah. Overall, yeah, besides some little bit of silliness like that, I completely could brush over it because, to be honest, it's all part of the adding tension. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
managed to slow it down, but you still haven't stopped the evil that is coming to destroy you all. Kind of deal.
One thing I did particularly like was that cliffhanger where the doctor finally talks to the alien. He's like, "Oh, you want to deliver a message? Well, I'll certainly deliver for them. The message is that I will destroy you all." End scene.
Yeah, that would have been a hell
Next
of a
thing we see is the
cliffhanger.
monster chasing Jamie.
That,
That was good. And then we reveal just how long the doctor spent in there negotiating with them. It makes sense that it was able to change so quickly.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense how they could change their mind so quickly on not killing them.
Right.
But I also find it a little bit silly though too that the thing could reach humans and they instantly die of old age and dissipate. But it reaches the doctor and he only slowly ages a couple of years.
Well, and it does make sense. I mean, they're basically trying to to change the time difference to what it is outside so that they can reach them. So you're essentially aging them a year. Well, even a year, a minute is a lot. But I mean, the Doctor, several incarnations of the Doctor have each lived through multiple human lifetimes. I mean, the fourth and 11th Doctors especially have each gone through, hundreds of years, if not thousands of years of aging. I don't think any of them specifically went through thousands. Maybe David Tennant in that part that he was de-aged from. And actually, Tom Baker had that same thing happen to him, that he was hyper-aged and then de-aged. So the Doctor can survive a lot when it comes to aging.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess the other thing they're trying to possibly hint at is that he's a Time Lord, which means he could take a lot more than what a human could.
Right.
But there could have been a better way of going about it.
There's also the fact that I think I forget which, I think this occurred in the 70s or 80s, but it's also revealed that when something affects time, it affects a Time Lord less because of their particular physiology, which is designed to resist that. I forget what it was. Something stopped time, and instead it just slowed the Doctor down while everybody else was frozen. Do you remember that?
They did that during the Third Doctor.
Okay,
When
maybe
the
that's
Master was trying to stop the unit, and the Third Doctor was able to get at least a couple of people inside safely because
okay.
he
That
wasn't
might be what
affected
I'm
by it.
thinking of then.
And then the Third Doctor was going about doing some sort of little experiment thing with random items from around the house to try and undo what the Master was doing.
Yeah.
And it did screw up what the Master was doing, so he's just like, God damn it. You were never too much from school! Darn you, Doctor! And runs off as usual. Next time, Gadget! Well, not just quite as cornball as Dr. Claw, but, you know.
No, that would be a different version of the Master.
It'll be the later versions. The later versions, especially during the 80s, is definitely where he became more of a Dr. Claw.
I'll get you, Doctor, and your little dog Jamie too.
Oh wait, Jamie's not around anymore. Ha ha! And the Doctor flips him the bird. But that's a totally different little tangent.
Yeah.
We actually haven't had much of a tangent this time, have we?
And we need them. It's just the two of us.
Yeah, it usually tends to be the other people we're with.
We haven't gone on any more tangents than we need for this, keeping this a decent length episode.
True, and we are almost approaching the hour-and-a-half mark, which is pretty good for a podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Most podcasts try to keep it around an hour, to be honest, so...
Ours are usually around 2, so...
Yeah, we're for some reason, very crazy to try and keep it going for 2 hours, I think, but maybe that's just me. But, so, actually, yeah, with us closing in on our usual running time, should we go for numbers on how we like this? I don't think we did numbers last time either, did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did, yeah. I believe most of us gave it about 4.
We gave it 4 across the board.
Mm-hmm. So you want to give it a number first, I guess, maybe?
I'm thinking probably about the same thing. I mean, basically it has the same strengths and weaknesses as Hunters of Earth. You know, performed in different ways. Obviously, the last one was mostly about Susan, where this one was mostly about the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I mean, in terms of quality, I'd say it puts it at about the same level.
Yeah, I would say for quality-wise, yeah, it's definitely a 4 at least. But the fact that Fraser Hines so meticulously just hammered Patrick Troughton's voice and everything, and mannerisms.
Yeah,
even the mannerisms, man. The mannerisms he even got down.
Yeah. And that
at least pushes it to a 4.5 for me.
And I've got to say, I mean, people might look at that as no mean. I mean, it's a kind of impressive feat even in live action, but to convey that over a voice thing without any particular props or whatever, that's even harder.
Yeah, essentially you're sealed off in this little glass room, and you're supposed to act like this guy that you used to know from years back. And you've actually been friends with him for a good, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, with no hand movements, no facial tics. You got to do it all with your voice, and he does that very well.
Extremely well. So that at least pushes it to a 4.5 for me, to be honest. I could almost go higher, but there are certain little hiccups here and there, as you mentioned before. That
I can't really change the rating. I mean, because Caroline Ford does a great Susan Foreman too, but we didn't increase the rating on that definitely.
Well, it's kind of expected of her.
And I wouldn't say that she did a bad.
Fraser Hines still does a very good Jamie, in my opinion.
Right.
But I don't think
I don't think she did a bad William Hartnell either.
No, but she can't really hammer that out though either to get exact voice. She definitely gotten the mannerisms right, but it's impossible for her to possibly ever gotten the actual full-on voice.
Oh yes, this is true. I can't imagine. And yeah, she does not have the same voice type at all. She kind of lacks the anatomy for that.
Yeah, she doesn't. She won't be able to hit the deeper old man kind of stuff that some guys would be able to hit, I would assume. Which, again, is why Fraser Hines really knocks this one out of the park, is because he got more than just his own character right. He got Patrick Troughton dead on too, while still doing multiple other characters as well.
He didn't do it. He actually, wait, who did Zoe? I forgot. Did he do Zoe or did?
He did Zoe.
Evie Dawn. Yeah, I don't think he did Zoe's voice straight that well either, though.
Sure. So yeah, that kind of does bring it back a little bit, but then again, she didn't get that much dialogue either.
This is true.
So I guess it still kind of falls around about 4, which is still higher than the average. This is still a darn good story. It'll definitely keep most people interested until the whole thing's done.
How do you think it would be for an introduction? I don't think it would be a terrible introduction to this Doctor. What do you think?
No, it definitely would not be a bad introduction to this Doctor.
I think there are better ones, mainly because of the way that Jamie and Zoe didn't have anything to do. But there are also worse ones out there.
Yeah, I would argue if you really want to still see a video version of the second Doctor to start with, the Invasion you cannot beat. And although it isn't the characters that he's the second Doctor is with all the time, especially from the beginning, it is still one of his better stories, and all three characters really have something to do, as well as bringing back the Brigadier, who would later on become a regular character.
The Invasion has the two companions he's most remembered for, anyway.
Yeah. As well as also bringing back the Brigadier as the Brigadier for the first time.
And the that's
and also the Cybermen, which is also
the most iconic Cybermen scene from that era as well.
Oh yeah, it's also the
other than the Cybermen emerging from their tombs on Talos.
Or walking across the moon, which is also another popular scene.
That one is not one I usually see used though. Although they did reference the moon base. You heard that one?
Yep. Yeah, I did hear them also referencing the moon base in this one too, which, yeah, I guess it wasn't exactly after. Well, actually, no, it was mostly Jamie remembering the moon base.
Right.
So yeah, he would have been there. He would have remembered something.
Right. Zoe wouldn't have been, but he would have.
Mm-hmm. So they even got their references right. So yeah. Overall, yeah, it's still a pretty darn good story, and it's amazing to hear Fraser do Patrick Troughton so well.
Yeah.
But again, he's getting on his years, and it's not all that hard for an older gentleman to try to pretend to be an older gentleman anymore. It's probably more of a strain for him to actually act like Jamie anymore.
Yeah.
Of how old he's getting on now.
Or at the very least, I mean, him pretending to be a version of himself from 45 years ago is probably about as hard as him pretending to be somebody he knew 45 years ago that was older.
Probably, yeah. So, then the next one we're going to be doing is the third Doctor one. Now, which one is that?
That's Vengeance of the Stones.
Okay, going back up here.
And did we ever look at who's narrating that? I don't remember.
I think we did look at it quickly, but we didn't really linger on it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the guy who played Mike Yates.
That's right, yes.
Richard Franklin.
Captain Yates. So it's too bad they couldn't get Joe or Katie Manning or whoever played Liz Shaw, but at least we're getting someone from UNIT.
Yeah, we're at least getting somebody.
Considering that
that most of the unit is not dead.
Considering that the three main actors people would have liked to hear from in this era are all dead by now.
Yeah.
We're not getting Sarah Jane, we're not getting the Doctor, and we're not getting the Brigadier.
And then there's also Benton, and I believe he died not too long ago as well.
Okay.
I think Benton, I can't remember, I think it was Benton, I can't remember 100% for sure, but I think it was Benton, and I think he died like about a year ago.
Okay. And didn't Romano won as well? Or am I thinking somebody else? I might be thinking somebody else.
You might be thinking somebody else. I don't think any of the Romanos have died yet. That I'm aware of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Romana 1 just had her Big Finish debut recently, so she shouldn't have died.
Yep.
Maybe it's another Time Lord I'm thinking, a Time Lady.
Maybe. I'm trying to think of who you might be thinking of. I can't think of anybody. Most of the women are actually still around. I know, gosh. I think it was I'm trying to think of their names now, and I'm, no. I'm trying to think of their names now, the first Doctor companions, and I'm completely botching them. I can't, tip of my tongue and I can't remember them.
The actors and actresses, what do you mean?
I'm trying to remember just the names of the companions they played.
We had,
Ian.
Susan, Ian, Barbara, Vicky, Steven.
I do know that Ian is still alive, and he's looking on in his years, man.
You said who?
Ian's still alive, last I checked.
There's reason to think that he might be appearing in Day of the Doctor, but at the
very unlikely. And even if he did, it'd be for an extremely small part.
A sign showing him, a sign of Coal Hill School showing him, Ian as the headmaster, has apparently appeared on Twitter a few months ago.
Oh, that would actually be kind of interesting.
That's not to say he'll appear in person, but his name is being referenced.
Yeah, because we haven't seen anybody from the first Doctor in a long-ass time. And especially since we're going back to somebody who was as old as the first Doctor was.
Right.
It'd be kind of apt to do something along those lines, you know?
Right. Who knows, maybe that reference to Susan made in Rings of Akhaten was actually foreshadowing.
That would also be really nice, too. Bringing back Susan, because obviously her actress is still around. Come on, guys! Yeah. Come on, ABC, you can do it!
And we're going back to
she's not asking for much.
The last two times were actually, two of the last three times we saw Susan, not counting Dimensions in Time, were with Daleks, so...
True. So we'll only be apt to bring her back with another Dalek story. At least semi-Dalek-based story.
She shows up, she's still part of the Dalek, the resistance against the Daleks.
Yeah, all they really need to do is give her a jumpsuit and a plastic weapon and she's good to go.
As long as they don't just have her scream.
Or break her ankle again! Oh my god, how many ankles does that woman shatter?
Well, I guess Time Lords can regenerate their ankles easily enough.
Apparently, but they don't keep them for long. And on that note, I think that's good enough.
On that note, next week, Destiny of the Doctor, Vengeance of the Stones.
With Mike Yates as our narrator and bringing back some Patrick Troughton.
Anybody have a clever second or third Doctor quote to end that off with?
Reverse the polarity!
Yes, reverse the polarity of the Twitch